Welcome back, viewers. As you know, I'm Film Frak Adam. Good to see you.
And I'm John. We talk over each other sometimes. That's what we do.
We always talk over each other. It is what we do. Today, we're actually coming together to do our return to interviewing, and actually our first video interview since the glorious Andrew David Baker, which you can go back and find in the archives there. And today we're speaking to filmmaker, producer, all-round awesome gal, Hansi Oppenheimer, about her new film about Joe R. Lansdale, the man who gave us BUBBA, HO-TEP and Cold in July and Hap and Leonard. The film's called All Hail the Popcorn King. It's a wonderful experience that we're going to talk about right now. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the interview.
Yeah, we're going to show you a quick trailer for the flick, and then we'll get right into it. So stick around.
Try something right at the beginning.
Sure.
Why did you start writing?
If you've read Joe Lansdale, you love Joe Lansdale.
I wanted to be one ever since I found comic books. But when I read Ender Rice Prose, I knew I had to be one. I didn't want to be one, I had to be one.
You know, he lives in Nacogdoches, Texas. It's one of the oldest towns in Texas.
It's got so much heritage and so much history.
Who the F is this guy? Great writer who can kill you not only with words, but with his hands.
And Davy Crockett was in Congress in Tennessee, and in fact, when he left, he says, when he lost, he said, you can all go to hell, I'm going to Texas.
Because that didn't turn out so good for him. You know, he died at the Alamo with a lot of other people.
I want everyone to know that not only is he a great artist, but he's a wonderful father.
But when I had him, you almost had to stand on top of it to get it to type.
He died at his typewriter, which is the best way to go, you know.
Hi there.
Hey there.
Hey, Hansi.
Hey, give me a sec. I was just testing my audio.
Sure. Nope, you froze up on us.
Oh, okay. That could happen. I live in a really big building in New York, and everyone's home watching something on Netflix. So, hopefully it'll work.
Yeah, well, you seem to be coming through fine now.
Oh, good.
And I just want to be clear. How do I pronounce your name? I just don't want to say it wrong.
Oppenheimer.
Oh no, your first name.
Hansi.
Hansi. Okay.
Yeah, it's Hansi. It's Johnny in German, actually. It's like little Hans.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, my grandmother was German, and she was Johanna, but she rode a motorcycle and smoked cigarettes. I suspect she was probably a dyke because it was arranged marriage, but they always called her Hansi. So when I was born, they named me Hansi, and I hated it until I was 30, and then it was like, oh, that's kind of a cool name.
Awesome. So how's your day been?
A little crazy. I'm juggling, doing the PR, and we had to switch editors at the last minute because of some illness, the crazy shit that's going on. So our editor needed to step back. So I had to do a whole hustle to find another editor that could work with the same system, have the same update, get the media. And I found someone, I got the media today. So hopefully we're back on track for the DVDs.
Oh, excellent. Is there a speculation on a release date for the DVD?
No. Although the editor who's going to do it for me has done it and can do it, he said, in a day and a half. I mean, I pay for it, but I learned that the things the editors you don't pay for are always going to fuck you over somehow.
Yeah, that's a lesson I think we've all learned at some stage working in independent films.
Yeah, like people just don't show up. I've had a DP day of shoot call and say, "Oh, sorry, can't come." It's like, what do you mean? I have like a cast, I have a set, I have 2 days to shoot. Like, yeah, you got to pay people.
It's a good rule, and something I think that during these times too, people are learning just how much value art actually has. You know, as in there's people that aren't us, that don't thrive on it all the time. Suddenly are all turning to it. So, you know, they're learning that it needs money. It needs money to keep functioning.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, art is everything. Like, without art, like, you know, we wouldn't exist. Like, how would you get through any of this without art? You know, either making it or watching it or participating in it or the fandom of it. All of those things are just, that is life.
Very true.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even before this, we eat, breathe, and sleep it, and yeah, now even more so, I think.
Yeah. Well,
if that's possible. I mean, at least now I have the time to overthink everything.
I kind of love it. I mean, about a year ago, I decided I wanted to, because I had worked at Lincoln Center for 7 years, and about a year ago, I decided I wanted to do Squee full time. And although it didn't end up with me being like let off or furloughed, it was sort of a bad way to end it, with me basically telling the president to fuck off. But but I got out of it, and after I straightened out all the things with unemployment, you know, I'm home, I'm making money, and I'm working on Squee all the time. It's kind of worked out that way. It just.
And for our listeners, can you get into like what that is? What is Squee for our listeners who are familiar?
Squee is my media company. We do. I work with a lot of different artists. I have, you know, people who come in when they can. It's sort of a collective, but a very loose collective. Like, you can show up and say, I want to work on this, and sure. But we have done cons, panels, presentations, educational things, library talks, film festivals that showed LGBTQ, non-binary, and people of color's films. Like, I try to support diversity in the industry, because, you know, we're not getting enough of other people's stories, you know, and we need them. You know, we would not be having this stupid war, race war, if people like could put themselves in someone else's life for a minute.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, I'm off the soapbox now. What do you want to ask me?
No, we love passion, man. We love passion and passion for art and everything else. It's wonderful, and you know, it's well done. It's totally a worthy cause. That, you know, I know we support completely. We are here to talk about All Hail the Popcorn King, the nice poster in the background there. Which is the Joe R. Lansdale documentary, just for our listeners that mightn't be familiar with it yet. So talk us through a little bit of how that came to be, how the idea came to you, or where the passion for that drove you to actually do that, because obviously it doesn't fall into the parameters of strictly what you just talked about.
You're right. So yeah, white guy. But I also, you know, I'm not anti-white guy. I'm also like, he's an incredible artist who doesn't get the recognition he deserves, you know. And part of it was we became friends on Twitter, and he did a piece for my Joe Bob Briggs documentary, and I asked him if he would write something, and he wrote it in 24 hours, sent it back to me. It was perfect. It made me cry. And I was like, nobody does this. People don't do that. You know, like, how generous. And so we became friends on Twitter. And then I was in Texas for a con, and not knowing how big Texas was, because I'm from New York, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be in Houston. I'll come by Nacogdoches. We'll hang out. So, you know, I asked him to do an interview for my YouTube, and of course Nacogdoches is like 3 hours from Houston, because everything's really big there. And went to lunch with him and Karen, and we went to the dojo, and we did our interview, and Karen, my friend, hung out and, you know, chatted, and you know, I was just like, it was the first time meeting him after loving his work since the 80s. So I was like, so what? How about the drive-in? Tell me the story of the drive-in, or how, you know, tell me about the Magic Wagon, or how did that happen, and what about Happen Leonard? And, you know, it was, you know, it's, the film is a fangirling, it's a fan film. You know, I mean, you see a lot of Joe, but you also see like him in a very close, like, it's very like, I think it's intimate, right?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I'm a huge fan of his work, massive fan of his work. I didn't come to him until BUBBA HO-TEP, the film, then reverse engineered that. And then, you know, slowly worked through and found the Hap and Leonard and found Cold in July, and which quite, I mean, and all the fantastic stuff that he's done. And as everyone on the documentary makes clear, like, it's impossible to read everything he's done, because was it like, you know, 50 novels and then like 500 plus short stories. You are always discovering new things.
And, you know, the things he does for friends just to be nice. I mean, he edits books. I mean, it's.
Yeah, and it's astonishing how prolific and busy he is even now, you know, approaching 70. It's ridiculous. And yeah, I really loved how as a fan, like how it started off intimate, almost just this guy on the street walking you through his hometown. And, you know, you got to know him personally first, and then slowly it expanded to him talking about his work more specifically with Hap and Leonard, which is, you know, so amazing. I sat down last night and thought, you know, I haven't watched, you know, I watched the whole series like 3 times when it first came out, and then I stopped and I haven't watched it since. And so I thought, I'll sit down last night, and my wife hadn't seen season 2. So I sat down and said, let's watch an episode of Hap and Leonard before bed. We watched 5 of the bloody 6 episodes. It's so goddamn good, the show. I mean, he's really fortunate that he's had such good adaptations of his work too.
Well, it's interesting, but like Jim Mickle and Nick D'Amici and Don Coscarelli, like, just get him, you know, and everything they do with his work, you know, they get right. So I think, you know, a lot of people wouldn't get him, and I know everything he has been optioned. Like, people have optioned the Drive-In, the Magic Wagon, The Night They Missed the Horror Show, but they can't figure out how to make them.
I mean, they're tough. Yeah. And what's great about like Mickle and Coscarelli is they still put their own stamp on it too. Like, they still kind of filter it through their own style and vision on what they do, while still holding on and being true to everything he does, which is magnificent.
They do a great job. I love what they do. Yeah. You know, Cold in July and Hap and Leonard, of course, although the 3rd season was really rough.
Yeah, harrowing is the word I'd use. It was downright fucking harrowing.
You know, Joe just like, he, you know, makes a really gross joke, makes you laugh, eases you in, and then breaks your heart.
Absolutely. He throws you around. When I first started reading his work, I'd read, and then I'd be like, did I miss something? And then I go back and say, no, he's flowing that way. And it's not jarring. It's just, you know, I often, like I was talking about, like reading his books, I'll never get through everything he does, because I also go back to the ones I love time and again, anytime I feel like reading his books.
I don't know if you can see. Yeah. So these have been read a million times.
Nice.
Like an entire shelf full of books, and the only one I have read so far is Sunset and Sawdust, which is great. But they're all great. I mean, I'll never catch up.
So you touched on the fact that this is a fan film. What was your, did you have a vision when you went into this of what it would be, or did that get formed in the editing room once you had the footage?
No, I'm a pantser. You know, I don't, when I do a documentary, I just go and see where it goes and shoot what I shoot, and then figure out the story after. Because I think if you come in with a preconceived idea for a documentary, you're already swaying it. So just let it happen. And then, you know, you find the story in the footage. And, you know, that's the really sucky part. That's the real work. Brian Harrison Mack really helped me with that, because, you know, I'm an overshooter, of course. So there's all this shit, and we're just going through it. And then we're like, well, what are the main, you know? And then it's like, okay, well, who is Joe? What does Joe love? You know, martial arts, writing, his dog, his family. And, you know, that's Joe. So once we got covered with that, then we were like, okay, that's the story. There we go. You know, and he's so entertaining on camera. He's such a good storyteller.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I kept saying, like, we should find a porch so I can do like a shot of you on the porch telling stories. And he's like, I knew we were going to get a porch. And then I'm looking at the footage like a week or two later, and we went to his original house. He's got a new house now. Original house. That's the one where he's doing the thing with the key. Oh, it's the wrong one.
Hey.
And I'm looking at the footage later. I'm like, there was a porch there. I'm like, why did neither one of us notice that? Like, but he's really fun to hang out with.
Yeah, it seemed like you had so much, like you seemed like you had total access to his abode, to his mind, to his spirit, to him speaking. Was there any rules that he laid down, or was there any things that were off limits?
No, but I did show him every version of the cut, and, would ask his notes. I have a master storyteller right there. Like, I'd be an idiot not to, like, ask for notes, And his whole family, nobody was shy about, like, sending me notes after the first screening. But, we got to screen it 5 times, and every time we did it, like, we would, because you can't tell until you're with the audience. So when you see it with an audience, you're like, oh, that didn't quite work the way I wanted to. So we kept refining it, So we're almost at the end of what it is. We have to take out 3 shots because we couldn't get the license. But, that's not going to change much.
How did you get access to, like, Bruce Campbell? Like, there's some great interviews.
Joe asked him.
Yeah.
And, that was the thing. Like, when people heard it was about Joe, they wanted to participate.
That's cool.
Joe Hill, for God's sakes, there's all these people that I interviewed that are not in the film, but are on, like, the extras of the DVD, like F. Paul Wilson and all these other people. We couldn't fit them all in, but, yeah, Bruce was really, that was one I was really nervous about.
Yeah.
I've seen him in panels, and he can be kind of brutal if you're stupid. So I was like, I hope I don't say something stupid. But then, like, he made a joke about Joe being a killer, and I just cracked up. And once he got me laughing, then he was fine. Like, it's cool. He's really
and how long was your conversation with him? Like, we obviously get snippets.
Minutes. Yeah, it was short. I mean, it was business for him, and I knew that, and he was doing us a favor, so I didn't. I would have talked to him all day if I could have. In fact, I'm working on an Ash cosplay right now because there are no cons, but I need something to do with my hands while I can't do anything with the film. So I've been just taking this shirt and just burning it and distressing it and, like, dinking it in tea and just trying to destroy it so it looks like his.
That's awesome.
So how about Mick Garris? I'm just going to fanboy for a moment because you got on one degree of separation away from someone that spoke to Bruce Campbell, that spoke to Mick Garris, Don Coscarelli. Any sort of tidbits on what it was like to chat with those guys, what they were like in real life?
Mick Garris is fucking amazing. I love him so much. He's his company is Nice Guy Productions, and it couldn't be any more accurate. Like, even when I was working on the Joe Bob Briggs thing and I didn't have Lansdale behind me, and I reached out to Mick, and, he was really busy and he kept saying, like, I can't right now, but he kept getting back to me. And then he did an interview for that. And then we were at a con together. So we did the interview about Lansdale. He came to the screening we did in LA. He's just a really good person. Another one of those artists that, like, helps other artists, is supportive, is uplifting.
And how about Don Coscarelli?
He's weird. I mean, he's brilliant. I love the Phantasm movies. I love Bubba HO-TEP. I mean, I love John Dies at the End.
Yep, John Dies at the
awesome.
End. Yep. I love that film.
He's a truly great filmmaker.
And Beastmaster.
I haven't watched that. I just can't. Maybe one day. But I've watched every Phantasm movie, including, like, the final one, Ravenger.
I still haven't gone down the Phantasm rabbit hole. I've heard that the second one is the best one. I watched the first one and I didn't like it, but I've heard the second one is the best one out of all of them. And everyone tells me to at least give the second one a try.
It's all kind of a blur to me, but, like, that fucking sphere is the coolest thing ever. So I'll watch anything with the sphere.
You're not missing much with Beastmaster, by the way. Beastmaster doesn't hold up so well. I loved it when I was a kid. But it's tough to rewatch.
I don't generally like that kind of Tarzan, Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff. I'm more like horror or like goth horror. So yeah, Don Coscarelli was really strange because when we're talking about the popcorn story, where he would eat popcorn, it would inspire him, right? He'd get these crazy fever dreams. And Don was like, yeah, I was there when they were doing it and I ate the popcorn, and then because Joe's kind of a prankster. So Joe had told him, because he was asleep, Don was staying in the basement, well, I guess while they were talking about BUBBA HO-TEP. He said, oh, just if this noise goes off, it's the snake alarm. The water moccasins are in the house. So Don's he's all night having nightmares about water moccasins. And then we were talking about it, and he goes, the popcorn thing is interesting. It's you should probably do a study of Joe's work before the popcorn and after the popcorn. And I was like, that is such a Don Coscarelli thought to think. Just, slightly askew, but interesting. It's not the way I'd make a film, but he could he could do it.
So I know that when you're in the maelstrom of making a documentary, both John and I have had hands in docos as well and been through the process, and the stories seem universal, by the way, like finding the story in the editing room and all of the other mayhem you're talking about. So I know that when you're making it, you kind of get swept up in it at the time, but do you actually have a favorite moment or some favorite moments that you had when making the film or even in the film itself?
Well, I really did love driving around with Joe in Texas. It's he's kind of like a big brother, he's just 8 or 9 years older than me, and he kind of feels like a big brother. And, and it just felt safe and cool and relaxed. And he was talking to me. I'm a big Texas fan. I'm a New York girl, but I have this whole cowboy kink thing. So, so I love, Western history. And he's just telling me about all this Western history as we're driving around. It was just this intimate, cool, comfortable, relaxed thing with this guy whose work I idolize. It was that's the best moment.
And I mean, at the end of the day, as a fan, it must have been just amazing just hanging out with someone that you admire so much, right?
Well, that's why I do these documentaries.
Nice.
I got to hang with Paul Westerberg for a while when I was working on my Matt's doc, and that was awesome.
Oh, wow. Huh.
Yeah.
That's right. Is that the Replacements documentary?
Yeah.
Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was? Do you want to talk about that for just a second? What that was like? That was totally fan driven, right?
Well, probably shouldn't talk about it too much. It ended up really badly. My editor screwed me over in the contract and basically took my idea and the money, and and I got fucked. And the film didn't come out the way it was meant to be.
Okay, we'll move back on to happier things then. Again, making documentaries, the amount of children you have to kill, the amount of scenes and moments and things that have to get edited out.
Oh, you kill your darling.
The documentary and form a structure. What things of note did you really have a hard time or a struggle cutting out of the documentary?
Anytime Joe was talking was funny. He's hilarious. You just let him go. I mean, he really is that guy on the porch, telling you stories, and it's, I know it's of another time kind of thing.
And how long did it take to make the documentary?
The whole thing so far has been about 1.5 years, which is really good.
That's pretty that's pretty solid. That's a pretty solid turnaround.
Yeah. The last 2 films have taken me about 1.5 years now. So. Oh wow. But the first one took 10. So, you figure it out.
We're on the 11-year mark of ours right now. So.
sometimes you just gotta put it out there, no matter what it's like.
It's such a process.
It's gonna get, you know.
I mean, it's the distribution thing as well. Like in getting distribution and everything is really tough. How did you navigate that world?
It's, you know, and that's so funny because, you know, I foolishly went to film school, and while it was really cool to work with the, you know, professional gear, and I TA'd for documentarians, so, you know, they taught me some of the tricks. And also in film school, it's almost impossible to get a crew to show up because they've all been partying the night before. And I was in my 30s, they were in their 20s. So I just started like, I can do a documentary, just me and the camera, go out and talk to someone, you know? So, you know, it was kind of, I needed to make films that way if I wanted to make films.
And yeah, with getting distribution for this film, did you find that having the name Lansdale helped open doors, or?
We've had one offer. I still want to, you know, be patient. You know, I've learned not to take the first offer and to wait and see. And Joe has told me you undervalue your work and you need to aim higher. So if Yoda tells me that, that's what I'm doing.
Just out of curiosity, your Squee project there, like what has your experience been with that? Just as far as working with other artists collaboratively, because my personal experience, like I'm an artist, but I'm also like a pretty shrewd businessman, and what I've tried to do spent the past 3 years doing with a business partner is like we've actually been taking like our combination of knowledge of business and applying it with art, and we found that it's so hard to bring other artists into the loop that have that mindset, because like artists typically just sort of run around like cats with like no tail.
It's funny because I was thinking that the other day. I was like, you know, the one thing film school doesn't teach you is the business side. I mean, they should teach you about distribution. They should teach you about contracts. I don't need the science of light, you know? I mean, I'm cool with film critique and film history. Those are really fun. And I'm cool with playing with gear. But like, teach me like how to survive in this business, you know? Because, you know, I worked in post-production for like 20 years and started to really hate it. Yeah.
Has your experience?
Events, you know, and that was much more fun doing box office events, but they all work together to be able to four-wall and, you know, learn, you know, right? Everything adds to your knowledge and you're making your film. So
yeah. Has your experience been largely positive working with other artists to make things?
The big collaborative stuff I do has been, yes. I started doing that in like 81, and I did this. I was really obsessed with the Fluxus movement. You know, I don't know if you know what it is, but John Cage, Yoko Ono, all those guys, and they would send out a prompt, and all the artists would do these, you know, very early 70s conceptual art pieces based on the prompt. And I always loved that idea. I thought it was so cool. So I kind of tried to do that in my own way, and I think I'm still doing that by asking fans to be part of the film story. You know, I'm asking, you know, people to send me videos, you know, of them, you know, not necessarily me shooting it, but you know, you shoot it. You know, Yuri did that, you know. So collaborating in art, I really love it. It really works for me.
What's your like long-term goal as far as what you want to do with your art? And I always love asking that question.
World domination. But I just want to like sell this film, make some money, you know, make enough money not only to cover what I used on my credit cards to make this film, but make enough money to make another film, you know, and each one will have a little bit better budget and each one will be a little bit more out there. And, you know, it's not like I'm going to stop doing it. I've tried. It doesn't work, you know?
Do you have an idea for the next thing you'd like to shoot?
Yeah, I got a couple things in mind. One, John Skip and Brian Keane are talking about doing a splatterpunk doc. So that'll be really fun. And we were going to start in March, but travel ban.
Yeah.
Which is okay. I suggested we do it all on Zoom. I thought it'd be really like the medium is the message kind of thing for like splatterpunk, because like, yeah, we can make it really funky. But John Skip didn't like the idea.
And what would I'm not familiar with what that actually is. What's that? What would that subject entail? Is that like a music movement or something? Or yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a joke. It was a movement, you know, but by the time they named it, it was over, and none of the artists in it like the term. Like I have a whole like rant of Joe Lansdale discussing it, like he hates the term. But it was a bunch of writers that all sort of came up in the same time. Like they're all in Silver Scream, and edited by David Scow. And then there were a couple like magazines and anthologies that were of that period. And it was all sort of like punk rock, violence, gore. It was extreme for the time, you know, but it was all based in like punk rock and that whole aesthetic. So
that sounds like a fun like little niche genre that would be cool to explore.
It sounds like something we would like.
Yeah, and it sounds like something that would be visually really fun to shoot, because you know, like punk aesthetic is just beautiful.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time this morning. Figured we've probably gone over our half an hour, which is usually.
I'm sorry.
No. Not to apologize at all. Well, I'm actually afraid that I'm taking up too much of your time.
It's fine. I'm so happy to talk to you about the film, and you know, I really want the people to see the film. It's a really great film. I love it. I'm proud of it.
Well, as a fan, I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a stroke of genius to end it with having all of the guests and the colleagues and collaborators just touch on what their favorite thing was that got them into Joe and everything, just to add that scope of the fact that we've made this hour documentary, but this thing could have been 10 hours long. And don't kind of pick on us for choosing these 3 or 4 key things to focus on, because yes, we're aware there's this abundance of material that we could have.
I mean, actually, when Joe and I collaborated on, I'll just take 5 more minutes of your time and then I'll shut up.
Oh, yeah, sure.
When Joe and I first started talking about collaborating on it, I had seen remastered Devil at the Crossroads, the documentary about Robert Johnson, and it's a 45-minute doc, and it's very like based in where he was from. And I thought that's a really good model for Joe, because Joe is so Nagadocious. Like everyone knows Nagadocious from Joe. Like otherwise, who would know about it? So, and he liked the idea, so that's what we're aiming for. And then we did 45, and we're like, it should be a little longer. And then we got to 55, and we're like, this is good. I know people have complained about it not being 90 minutes, but I don't have the attention span for a 90-minute movie anymore.
Yeah, it wasn't a criticism, actually. I just thought it was just a really clever way of just touching on the fact that there is all this breadth of material, and also just showing that all of us come to Joe from different angles and different works. And, you know, I don't know. It was just something that I was left, a nice little gift at the end where I was pondering that aspect of it. Which is always the sign of a good movie, right? Is when you think about it afterwards.
Absolutely. And if you go and you're like, your desire is, now I must go get more Joe Lansdale books.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I immediately went to bed and started reading Happen Leonard again.
Oh, awesome! I love that.
I've shamefully never seen Bubba HO-TEP, and it's one of those movies throughout like.
I'm sorry?
I've never seen Bubba HO-TEP, shamefully, and that's one of those movies that I feel like I should have seen by now, and that movie was like a staunch reminder that I really need to get off my ass and watch Bubba HO-TEP, because everyone like that is like one of the most talked about movies, and
it's amazing.
You need to see it.
Yeah, you should watch it as soon as you can.
I'm probably gonna watch it tonight. Actually, now once we get off this call, I think I'm gonna watch Bubba HO-TEP. I need to make that happen.
Weird because it's so crazy, but it's so grounded that you just buy it. You're like, yeah, okay. Anyway,
hail to the king, baby.
It's really been a pleasure, and you know, anytime you want me to come back, or we can do anything together, or I can help promote you guys, please let me know.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's been
Thank
a
you so much.
pleasure.
Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good night.